Good morning. Welcome into Five Clubs here on this Tuesday. Great to have you with us here on Golf Channel. But of course, you know you can listen as well if you got to leave the house. It is Channel 92. That's PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams, and this program, you know, is brought to you by Century Insurance. They are right by you. Business insurance needs are met by Century, not to mention their investment in the game of golf, which is significant with the first tee, with the USGA as well. Golf Pride, when it comes to grips and offerings and the quality of the materials and the products, nobody can touch Golf Pride. More players at every level trust Golf Pride than any other grip company in the world. And finally, Peter Millar, this Winsome hybrid cardigan ain't your granddaddy's cardigan. It's like a little puffer jacket, fully zipped up. You can get it at petermillar.com. And how about the Amble long sleeve cotton cashmere shirt? Don't leave that out as well. It's the best lifestyle brand out there. And it's not just the website, it's the locations around the country and all the great cities in this country. It's Peter Millar and petermillar.com. You know what today is? Today is like a Prodigy Tuesday, because I'm going to be joined by two guys who I greatly appreciate, but also know that their path in golf, they were like better than everybody else, like right away. And I'm curious to know when they knew that they were better than everybody else. Nick Dougherty from Sky Sports, he was the boys world champion in 1999 on a Walker Cup team, was the Rookie of the Year on the DP World Tour, and obviously does great work, his analysis. He has great content on social as well, doing instructive stuff. I'm looking forward to talking with him. He's in Abu Dhabi. They got obviously the great field with these two events left on the DP World Tour schedule. Rory, back-to-back weeks. How great is that? And then at the bottom of the hour, Justin Leonard. Speaking of prodigies, he was part of a couple of lists, and one is still really significant. The other one used to be like a great little quiz or trivia question. Who are the players all time on the PGA Tour who avoided Q School? And for decades, that was like the most elusive list, and he was on that list. So he is somebody who is now one of the best players on PGA Tour champions, but he didn't play competitive golf for years, so I'm looking forward to talking to him as well. That is bottom of the hour. One last thing, even though the Monday Night Football game had nothing to do with golf, in my mind it kind of did, because I swear to you, when the Cowboys were down 24-7, you know who I thought of? I thought of Jordan Spieth. Jordan was 2 the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl, January of '96. Sorry, Jordan. All right, couple thoughts before we take a break, and we are joined by Nick Dougherty, because the DP World Tour has a season that is longer. They go to, I believe, 27 different countries over the course of the year on the DP World Tour. It really is the global tour, and they have an alliance with the PGA Tour. And my point right here, right now, is that I would like to see these two tours deepen the alliance, because to me, when I look at the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth, won by Alex Noren this year, but Billy Horschel's won the event twice, that's the best field in golf. I didn't say the strongest, I said the best. If you go back and if you look at the leaderboard of that event this year, and you look at the cross-section of players, the best players who play on the PGA Tour, who are Europeans or part of the European community, kind of born and bred on the DP World Tour. I'm talking about the Victor Hovlands, the Tommy Fleetwoods, who spend most of their time now on the PGA Tour. They're all in the field. All the best LIV players are in the field, and that's why actually the strength of the field in terms of world ranking points is actually dragged down, because Jon Rahm is currently 80th in the world. Is he really? No, he's not. But that's beside the point. I would like to see the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour find other ways, because right now you have a few events that are opposite field events on the PGA Tour in the middle of the summer in July, the ISCO, the Barracuda, that are a pathway for DP World Tour members to get a couple starts on the PGA Tour. And now you also have, based on performance on the DP World Tour, an opportunity to get your membership on the PGA Tour the following season, and that is good. We also have the Scottish Open, which is co-sanctioned. Find another one. And I also think that the PGA Tour, if you really want to have reciprocity between these two tours, like why was Kevin Yu and Michael Kim and Johnny Vegas in the BMW PGA Championship? Because they'd done enough on the PGA Tour to get them into their flagship event. How about giving some DP World Tour event or DP World Tour members based on winning significant events on the DP World Tour, if they're not already exempt, into the players, in the players? And also the fall. You look at events like the Irish Open and the Dunhill Links, and you do have some American representation, i.e. PGA Tour membership representation. I would deepen that relationship and find other opportunities and pathways for participation in individual events, which in turn might foster even more membership. And who knows, guys like Billy Horschel, to his credit, have become more global because he's going over there and he's playing in bona fide DP World Tour events. I'm telling you, go look at that BMW PGA Championship field list or just look at the final leaderboard. You're like, oh my gosh, that's great. And look at that. And again, it's a lot of live guys, but it's also so many guys who make their living on the PGA Tour who still are loyal to that tour. And then to the credit of the Michael Kims, the Kevin Yus, the Johnny Vegases, the Patrick Rogers, who chose to go over there and play in the event. That we need to see more of, if possible. Because if the absence of that, I'm not suggesting that LIV is in a position to suddenly continue to poach top players, but I think in an effort, and it doesn't mean that Scotty Scheffler is going to suddenly start hopping on planes and going here, there, and everywhere to play in events around the world, but I do think if you gave other players the opportunity, then you have what is an alliance that is not a monopoly, but it is something that allows fan bases, because golf is not just in a great place because of COVID. Golf is in a great place because there have been some very creative young people who saw the appetite for a young audience to suddenly create what they all have on YouTube Golf. But it's also because we have truly the globalization of where are all these players from? And that's one of the questions I'm going to ask of Nick Dougherty. How has Europe gotten so deep? And it's not just where he's from, but it's also all these other countries that you don't necessarily associate with great golf historically, like Norway and Denmark. And Denmark's had some good players, and Austria, and I can go on. They're in a very special place. Why has that happened over the last and next 10 years potentially? All right, we take a break. Nick Dougherty is going, God, will you get to a commercial? I've been on hold here in Abu Dhabi here for like 10 minutes. What a gas bag. Indeed I am. Hand up. Nick Dougherty from Sky Sports coming up next. Bottom of the hour, Justin Leonard as well. Great to have you with us this Tuesday edition of 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio Sirius XM's Channel 92. Back with you right after this. Back in this Tuesday edition of 5 Clubs here, Golf Channel, PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM as well. And of course, this program, this segment brought to you by Golf Pride when it comes to having the options. And I mean literally through the bag. If you're unfamiliar with the reverse tapered putter grip series, it's tremendous. I've had it on my putter for more than 2 years. More players at every level trust Golf Pride. All right, joining me now, what a pro. When you're trying to rent a car in Abu Dhabi in the middle of the night and you go, yeah, and I've got a media obligation before the day is over, and he honors it, that's a pro. From Sky Sports, and of course, 3-time winner on the European Tour himself. He was the Rookie of the Year on the DP World Tour. Wasn't called it then. Nick Dougherty, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Gary. Thanks for having me on, mate. Good to be with you.
Well, it's good to have you with me. I mentioned this at the top of the show. Justin Leonard is going to be with me as well. You were so good early, before we talk about things present day and these last two events. Did you have a sense at whether you were 12, 14, like I'm better than this group? Did you have an illuminating moment where you thought, I'm top of class here?
I think my dad did a really good job of making me believe that was the case, because as much as he was really, really hard on me, I always believed that I was different to everybody else. I almost had this feeling I was bulletproof as a youngster. Obviously, it was helped by winning things like the World Junior and coming through, playing the Walker Cup, being on a winning team. All those sorts of things help, fulfill that belief. But at the same time, I think that naivety, because it is a little bit naivety. I was a really good amateur, one of the best amateurs in the world, coming through and turning pro when I did in 2001. But I think that inherent belief, even though it might not have been built truly on fact, it carries you a long way. That fake it till you make it. It's a real thing. And in professional golf, I can say, because I've seen the other side of that coin, when I lost the belief and realized that I wasn't bulletproof and actually things can go wrong and in a hurry, hard to get that back, really hard to get that back. Sometimes knowing what's on the other side isn't such a good thing. And, I think definitely growing up, I was in an environment that allowed me to believe that I was a little bit different to others.
Yeah, Nick, what you just said, I find that one of the most important, interesting kind of discussions you can have about that doubt in belief. And when you have belief and you're emboldened by that, and when you feel some vulnerability and doubt creeps in, like reclaiming that other thing that you felt like you owned, I think is one of the really interesting things about this pursuit, of which you did it at the highest level and now you covered it at the highest level. I mentioned before the break about depth in European golf. Do you think that there are certain factors as to why, whether it's 7, 10, 12 years, that we have seen incremental increases in depth at the very top portions of the game from Europe? If those factors exist, what do you think they are?
Yes, I think there are reasons. Some of it has to be down to the college system. Let's not forget, you look at guys like Victor Hovland. Yes, he was really good when he came to the States, but the college system in the States, it was always the benchmark. When I grew up, if you were good enough, you went to college. The only reason I didn't go was because I had no intention of staying amateur long enough to finish my degree. And my mum said, if you don't finish your degree, you're not going to college. So I already took my SATs. I was ready to go, but I wasn't allowed to. And I turned pro at 19 after that Walker Cup. But so many of our great players went down. Of course, the practice facilities, the training, amazing. And a great platform for youngsters coming through then. But also the rest of the world pays attention. Like we were watching, you see, why do the Americans do it so well? What is so good about this college system, and how do we bring it to our shores? And around all of those nations, I can speak for England golf, because that's what I came through. I was coming through, it was how do we keep great amateurs amateur still and get the most out of them for their country and live a fulfilling life as an amateur. That's not what it's about now. They're fully aware that if you're good enough, these kids want to make it on tour and be the best in the world. So the ethos behind their whole upbringing is how do we create world beaters if they choose that to be their path? So everything around them, from the trainers, the nutrition, all the experts helping them, from their fitness to their golf swing to course management to keeping stats. It's a professional level. And that uplift in the standard is what I think allowed so many great players from all these European nations catch up, to be honest, because that's what it is.
And beyond that, we were talking about this in advance of the Ryder Cup. And if you want to nitpick, maybe Hovland is not incrementally or significantly better than he was in Rome. He's mercurial. Oberg, I still think, is better. I think we just heap expectations. My grander point is, I think all those guys from Rome were better coming to Bethpage. So with that as a precursor, who do you think is still ascending? Give me among that group, who you think is going to have a monster 26?
As much as it feels like a weird thing to say, because he's had a monster 2025, Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
He's lit the candle this year, and he's going to want to light lots and lots and lots of candles next year. I think he's going to win a major championship. I think he's that good. I think he's got a stiff competition, though. You look at Tyrrell, you look at Bob McIntyre, how they played at the US Open. It was a moment of brilliance from JJ Spawn that stopped Bob McIntyre winning a major championships. And I think all of them have this great camaraderie and respect. But at the same time, it's that camaraderie, respect, but drive to beat each other that makes them as good as they are. And I think, you're looking at a group there, certainly of the 12 that represented Europe in the Ryder Cup at Bethpage. One of the things in their favour, I think, was expectation. They weren't supposed to do it. They knew they could because they were good enough. But the weight of the burden was on the Americans. Don't lose at home. Can't lose at home. No one loses at home. Doesn't happen anymore. And I think that was a big ask when you look at the form that the Europeans took in there. That was a big part of it. But when you look at those Europeans, I think that they'll build on that. I think Rory is probably going to find the solution to his what next, to his more big moments. But also I think one who's outside looking in, who you're going to see this week in Abu Dhabi to keep an eye on, who's not part of that 12, Marco Penge. His game, he's coming to the States. He's got one of those dual cards. When you look at his game, the makeup of it, he is going to run amok in the United States. He hits it forever. And if the belief follows him that he has now in Europe to the US, I think he's going to be a feature, certainly this coming year.
Nick, you've seen the whole journey for Rory. What has, if anything, changed about him in the last decade? Since the Valhalla, it looked like this could be a bushel full very, very quickly, to this odyssey in pursuit for a decade and the culmination at Augusta. What you think has changed, if anything, about him in the last decade?
I think when everything you touch turns to gold, which you did early in Rory's career, and not for any other reason than hard work and brilliance of the golfer and the person, when all of a sudden you hit a bit of a roadblock like he did, and all of a sudden the conversation shifts from what's he going to win next? Oh my goodness, the guy can't stop winning. He's incredible. To, it's been a while. And then he missed out, obviously, that Open at the old course where, he got injured. And just some unfortunate things. And all of a sudden the years start to tick over. And then there's the one that's truly missing, which is the Masters, which of course everyone every year talks about. It's the one he should really win. He hits it so far. And in terms of what he can do to that golf course. And he has to wait all of that time every year for one tournament to come around. And I firmly believe it became a massive roadblock in his mind. And I think as good as he is, as brilliant as he is, as tough as he is, as mentally better than nearly everybody in the world that he is, because I don't want to include in that, I think that's too much. I think human beings aren't necessarily built for that weight of pressure. How hard is golf? And to turn up for one every year, and it needs to be the week, and anything but a win, unfortunately, it's another failure, Rory. I think that's really hard. So the fact that he got past that this year is remarkable. I think he deserves all the plaudits that have been thrust upon him. But I can also see how it's almost taken him by surprise to where he's now like, well, what now? What do I do now? Because nothing can ever live up to what I've just accomplished there. So trying to find more of those big moments, as he's put it, which obviously winning an away Ryder Cup, winning national championships, especially his own, the Irish Open, winning the 7th race of Dubai, which is what's at stake across the next couple of weeks, getting to Monty next year if he can, and winning two more to get to, and then get past him, becoming the most decorated ever on the DP World Tour. I think he's got to pick out these little moments now, because as great as these championships across the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour are that he's won, with all due respect, another truist isn't going to change anything for Rory McIlroy. And I'm not picking on that as a tournament that's any less than anything else. It's just not. And the majors, is he going to get to Jack? No. Is he going to get to Tiger? No, I don't think so. So it has to be about trying to win those big ones. Of course, those majors stand out from the crowd. The players stand out from the crowd. Races to Dubai stand out from the crowd. FedEx Cups. And I think he is now at a stage where he's probably going to be a bit tougher in terms of he's going to play, and it's come across in recent times, I think, Gary, as well. I'm going to play where I want to play, not where people tell me to play. I've done my fair share of raising the flag for the tours, trying to protect the game, trying to push it the right direction. Don't get me wrong, I know Rory's done very, very well by the game of golf financially. Of course he has, largely by how well he's played it, but also he's had the courage to stand up and say his piece and defend something that he believes in. Much easier is to keep your head down and suck the check. And Rory hasn't always done that. And I think for him now to be a bit more bullish about, I'm going to do what I want on my terms because I think I've earned that right, I think I understand that. I respect the fact that he has put himself in a position now which is separate to all those others. And there's a lot of great players at the moment. Scotty Scheffler, certainly someone that I could see joining Rory as a career Grand Slammer, but not yet. Right now, it's Rory in this current crop that are playing week to week. Of course, we're not seeing Tiger, are we? So it's Rory that stands out from the crowd.
He does. You know, the additional majors, all he does is he clicks off. Whether he gets, you know, then it's Faldo and it's Trevino and it's Phil at 6. And then you get to 7 and it's Arnold and it's Snead. He fosters more lively barroom debates about where he sits in the grand pantheon. But you're right. And he said it himself. And I know that the primary goal is the medal at the Olympics, which didn't even exist when he started this professional pursuit. Let me ask you about something I talked about at the top of the program, because as somebody who won multiple times on the DP World Tour, you spent a fair amount of time in the States, you have a great familiarity with the PGA Tour system. What did you think of this alliance when it was created? And what do you think, if anything, they could do to deepen it and improve it?
Well, I think, you know, we're not saying anything that hasn't been said before by saying the relationship between the tours wasn't always fantastic.
No.
It was highly competitive at once upon a time. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to come through at a time when we had plenty of weeks when we had a stronger field in the US and in the quality of players. And, of course, it helped that we had guys like Tiger that truly believed in being a global star, was playing and winning tournaments around the world. It's one of the reasons that Tiger is Tiger. It's why Jack is Jack. It's why Arnold Palmer was Arnold Palmer, is that they travel around the world and they were the best wherever they played, not just inside the United States. And of course, that is the ultimate platform. We always knew, for me personally, when I got to start, when I was top 50 in the world and I'm playing obviously WGCs, the majors, and I'm playing some PGA Tour events, playing Arnie's event, amazing. I loved it. I love playing in the States. But there was also plenty of great events. And back in the day, to win on the European Tour, right as I was arriving, but I was the very, very end of this, the golden era of Langer, Woosnam, Lyle, Faldo, Seve. You had to beat all those guys to win the KLM Open, you know, and that's not necessarily how it is right now. But what I do think the DP World Tour has done a brilliant job of, and the PGA Tour, to be fair, they were fighting what was a very real threat at the time to the status quo in the game of where the main tours were and how it all worked. There was an unknown. And they came together to form something. I think it wasn't perfect at first. And I think there is still a lot of people that don't like the fact that the 10 best European golfers disappear off with cards to the PGA Tour every year. But let's be honest, the best European golfers do want to play on the PGA Tour primarily. But it's based on a belief and a trust that they'll come back and still support the DP World Tour. And what they have now, and I think through at the end of Keith, but also what Guy Kinnins at the helm now is doing with the tour, that I love is that there is a very clear time when the DP World Tour steps forward and steals the show. It's called the Back Nine. It's brand new, and it's where all those iconic events, you mentioned some of them there, whether it be the European Masters, Irish Opens, Dunhill Links, all the way through to these two we're playing here in the playoffs now. These are the biggest tournaments. These are the eyeballs in the world of golf right now. This is where the attention is. Yep. Not necessarily on the PGA Tour, though. That's compelling. Guys fighting for cards. I love those stories. They are the sweetheart stories. And that is where the true passion lives. Guys who are literally fighting for a living. Do I have to get a job or do I get to live out my dream? I love those stories. But for the casual eyeballs who want to see Rory McIlroy and the best players play, the DP World Tour is where it's at. The BMW PGA Championship, as you mentioned, a great event. And I do agree with you. I would like to see maybe an adjustment going forward. I'm sure some of the regular rank and file members of the DP World Tour might not agree, but I'd like to see at least 10 spots given up for the 10 American golfers, 10 top American players from the PGA Tour or PGA Tour players that wish to play in the Back Nine events, that want to come across and play, not just the sponsors' invitations that we have there. Because deepening those fields and seeing some of those great players that play both live and DP World Tour, like Tyrrell, like John, come back and play. I think it can only be great for the DP World Tour. And they are traveling around the world. It has always been the global tour. It goes to Australia, South Africa, Asia, Europe. It's in the UK. It goes across historically, it's been across to South America. It's like we do travel. And that's what makes our tour different, special in its own way, whilst not having the depth perhaps in talent that the PGA Tour has. It does have a shining light and it does have an appeal for people, and the depth of fields is something that would really contribute to that. So I really hope I do see it. And for people who'd argue that why would we make less spots for DP World Tour players, I'm a big believer in you just got to be good enough You got to be good enough. If there's 100 spots for players, why should there be 110? I think having 100 guys and the fact that they're shrinking the amount of players that keep cards now, I know if your guy finishes around 100, bad news, man. Not good times. Start to be a little bit more worried I'm going to lose my card. But the reality is you're playing for a lot of money. And mediocrity, although that's a harsh way of putting it because none of these guys are mediocre. But if you're not a standout player, should you be keeping your card with £500,000 each year? I'm not so sure. And I think it's very competitive. It's tough to be out there on tour. But on the other side of that coin, the reward for being a tour player, whether it be the DP World Tour, whether it be the PGA Tour, whether it be Live Golf, these days has never been greater. You're playing for so much more than Seve used to.
As you said, we travel. The DP World Tour would be, they're very clever people. You at a rental car ticket counter at 2:30 in Abu Dhabi is the most representative thing of we travel. More than somebody getting on a G5, getting from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. That ain't interesting. You in the middle of the night getting a rental car. All right, my friend, thank you so much for your thoughts, for carving out the time. Have a great holiday season. I hope I see you sooner than later. Thank you.
Look forward to catching you.
That is Nick Dougherty, Sky Sports. And again, very interesting thoughts on a number of things. And of course, that event, Golf Channel, early in the morning, love it. Wake up, already 2 hours into the morning wave. It's a great thing. All right, when we come back, Justin Leonard, 12-time winner on the PGA Tour, part of some small, tall top tables of like, wow, he's the only one of 5 who did this, that, and the other. He also analyzed the game at the highest level, then said, you know what, I'm going back to play highly competitive golf. His journey, he joins me next, bottom of the hour. It is a Tuesday here, 5 Clubs Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Back right after this. Welcome back into this Tuesday edition of 5 Clubs Golf Channel and, of course, Sirius XM's Channel 92, that is PGA Tour Radio. This segment presented by Century Insurance. Business insurance needs, if you have them, please appeal to Century. They will meet them. All right, joining me now, 12-time winner on the PGA Tour, a guy who was also on that live from desk for years and said, you know what, I want to reignite what I used to do as good as anybody. And that, of course, is Justin Leonard. And he is in a good position when it comes to the Schwab Cup standings as well. The house not as chaotic as it once was. Good morning, my friend. How you feeling?
Good morning, Gary. Feeling great. It's beautiful. We're starting to get some fall weather here in Florida, and which means the greens are getting a little firmer and a little faster, and it's all is good.
Very good. I had Nick Dougherty on, and Nick was better than everybody at a young age. So were you. I mentioned, you did something when you bypassed Q School when it mattered. Do you remember who the only other guys were who had done it? Because that used to be a great trivia question. Who didn't go to Q School? You know the answer, don't you?
I know Scott Verplank was one. Phil was another. I think Gary Hallberg.
Bingo. You were number 4.
I was number 4. Okay, it was those 3. Yeah.
And then a guy named Tiger said, well, I could do what Justin Leonard can do.
Yeah.
He did it. Then there were a few others, and then it's not the same anymore. And Nick said something interesting to me about looking around at the landscape at a young age. And he said, I struggled with being a little, he didn't use the term self-defeating. He said his father was the one who was like, no, you're better than everybody. Did you have a moment or a period where you're like, I'm top of class?
No, I never had any of those moments. I was always, one of the good things I did, I never really compared myself a lot to other people. Other players and things like that. Like I could go out and play a practice round with Davis Love, and even though he's hitting the ball 40 yards by me, which, happened pretty much every hole, it didn't bother me. And I think partly because I grew up that way. I grew up playing at Royal Oaks Country Club in Dallas. When I was 12 or 13 years old, I was playing with the high school kids. They hit it further than me, but we shot very similar scores. And so we could play little matches and things like that. So I think that's something that never really bothered me, being outdriven or being envious of what another player's skill set might be, those kind of things. I was just pretty solely focused on what I was doing. And so I never really compared myself that much to other people. I was just so wrapped up in the things that I did and trying to do them a little bit better, that I never got lost in the comparisons or the, I've got the world by the tail kind of thing. I was just playing each week and then, okay, what's next kind of mentality.
This is the second day in a row that I've asked something of someone, and the question about comparing yourself to others, I think I've been compromised. I didn't send you the questions because I honestly, Justin, look, and I think for younger people now, because there's these Instagram lifestyles that may have some truth to them. There may be a modicum of reality associated with it. Comparison is the thief of joy, which is a great line. Was that something that it was a physical part, or did you just think that you had an ability to focus on your own things because you just could?
That phrase you just said, comparison is a thief of joy. It's something that we say, Amanda and I say to our kids all the time. It's something we fully believe. And when you start looking around, it's easy to feel less than you are. And like you said, the social media, there's some people that post things that it's like, wow, that's pretty real and raw. But for the most part, they're trying to paint this picture of kind of a perfect life. And so I'm not big on social media because of that. We try and, I think our kids have come to a healthy understanding of that. And part of it because, we're harping on them all the time. But no, I think that it's so easy to look around and think, well, I wish I had what they had or that had or, this and that. And there's always somebody with a bigger boat. There's always somebody that hits it further or better or makes more putts or whatever it could be. And so and it wasn't really a message that was preached to me at a young age. I think my parents, they just, they wanted me and helped me to be focused and pay close attention to the things that I was doing. And then, the other person involved in that would be Randy Smith at Royal Oaks and my longtime instructor. And we never went out seeking to gain a lot of distance or, this is the way the game is going. This is, he always felt like my skill set was enough and let's just keep sharpening the tools that I had. And, I feel like I've carried that kind of through my professional life, whether it was, golf or my sabbatical from playing and my working with you for whatever, 6 or 7 years. I wasn't trying to be somebody else. I was just trying to figure out who I wanted to be when I was in the booth or, sitting at the live from desk, those kind of things. So I think that's something that's it's served me well in life, and it's something I talk to other people about. When we get into whether it's a golf conversation or a life conversation, especially with younger players, it's and my son Luke playing at Villanova, it's like you can't just judge yourself by the scorecard or by how you do in the tournament compared to other people. Like you have to really go internal and analyze yourself in your own game. And when you do that, you will, and you find ways out of maybe it's, a trouble spot in your game, those kind of things. Your game will improve. It's not comparing yourself to somebody else. It's comparing yourself to who you were a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. And then looking forward, who do you want to be 6 months from now, a year from now, that kind of thing.
You mentioned sabbaticals. So when you made the choice to really re-engage, was there something that came back, a trait, a skill, an asset first? And was there something that took the longest to reclaim?
I think, when I stopped playing in 2016, we were living in Colorado. For 3 or 4 years, I may have played a handful of rounds a year. I wasn't practicing. I really got away from the game. And I think it served me well. When I came back, I started practicing a little bit more when I think right after I turned 48. I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to go play, but if I do, I need to, start getting back into it a little bit. Kind of changed my workouts, gotten a little more, golf focused workouts, that kind of thing. Started hitting balls, and it was like hitting the ball solid was not a problem. Like I was still, hitting the ball, fairly solid and pleased with that. Driving was okay. It was kind of the little things. It was feeling the difference between hitting an 8-iron 157 yards versus 153 yards. And that's something that throughout my career I was very good at. And I think it was something that probably one of the strengths of my game was controlling my yardages and things like that. And I found myself like, hitting the little shots or just trying to take a little speed off of it, or, some of the controlling the wedge distances and things like that. That's the thing that really had left me, and I had to, and it wasn't necessarily, you can practice it, but you have to have a scorecard in your pocket to really see where that lies and where that stands. And that's something, it took a while. I played 4 events my first year when I turned 50. I was still doing TV. And it wasn't until like the second or third event where I started to feel a little bit more comfortable doing that. But I could also see where if I could go at it 100%, meaning just playing golf, I felt like I could be competitive again. And that's something that was very attractive. It wasn't something I was necessarily planning on. I just kind of stumbled into it, and I decided then that it's really hard to do 2 things well at the same time, meaning play golf and be an analyst. And so I decided to go.
All right. We had clearly Justin Leonard, when he's making a good thought, we didn't just say, you know what, he's not very interesting. We're just going to pull the plug. We hope to get him back. There he is. Okay, as soon as we can re-engage with Justin, we will do that, because it's interesting when he was talking about analyzing golf. I think one of the years that he was doing live from, Justin, was one of the years as you rejoin us, talking about analyzing golf and playing golf. Did Brandel play the Senior Open Championship like the week after doing live from the Open? Were you there for one of those years?
I was, yes. I think the Open was at St. Andrews.
Yes.
I can't remember where we were doing the regular Open, but I think the Senior Open was at St. Andrews that year.
That is exactly right. Did analyzing golf help your golf?
Yes, it did. Absolutely. The preparation that goes into it, from using launch monitors and understanding different conditions and things like that, to really keeping things dialed in and sharp. I've been practicing with a launch monitor for the last 3 years. I just kind of upgraded, if you will, to a TrackMan. And I didn't do it because I crave the numbers. I did it to keep like my swing and the things that I keep an eye on within a certain range, so that I don't deviate too far. I found that working, I don't get to Dallas that often to work with Randy Smith. I work with Mike Thomas here some when I'm at home. He's got a very busy schedule, with Justin and traveling, things like that. So I would go 5 or 6 weeks without, being able to see one of those guys. And I was always like, okay, we got to exaggerate what we've been trying to do and those kind of things. And I thought, if I've got the numbers right there in front of me when I hit balls, certainly I could stay closer to where we want things. And I'm talking about, club path and face angle. And a big reason why I've played well here these last few weeks, because I can pay attention and see exactly where I want to be. Then beyond that, just the preparation, the amount of time that these guys spend on their bodies in the gym and in physical therapy, it's amazing. I mean, I remember I was playing the Open this year at Portrush, and I had my morning tee time, and I'm in the gym stretching out and stuff I was in there at 6 a.m. I think I had a 9 a.m. tee time. Rory was playing an hour after me. And Gary, he wasn't stretching. he was lifting. I mean, he was doing Olympic lifts and all kinds. It was unbelievable. And I asked his trainer, Roe, I said, is this like pretty common? He goes, oh yeah, he needs to get warmed up and ready to go. And I mean, this was literally 4 hours before his tee time. And then the same guys are in there afterwards. So I saw that and I was like, okay, I need to do a little bit more. I mean, these guys are, 20 and 30 years old doing this. I'm 53. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing Olympic lifts before I go play around, but I could be doing more. And so those are the kind of things that I've kind of brought into my own game. And, it's a little more prep time, but my body feels better. I feel like my swing has stayed more consistent and the movement is better. And, I've been fortunate. I've kind of put together this great little team down here, if you will. I've never been one for that, but now I kind of understand it between, the guys that, Randy and Mike, and then, the guys that I work with at the gym and my PT at the Bears Club, Vicky. It's, it's all kind of part of the process. And so I maybe don't spend as much time at the golf course practicing and playing, but all these other things that I'm doing are kind of, pieces of the whole puzzle, if you will.
All right, let me get you out of here. 5 quick questions to go. First question, what's your favorite pair of shoes? Like
my
your
favorite
go-to,
pair,
like your go-to, most comfy, this is my favorite pair of shoes.
Oh, on cloud. Just, whatever
any of
color any of them. Doesn't matter.
Okay, the best shot you ever saw in person. Who struck it?
Oh, let's see. The best shot I ever saw in person. I mean, it'd have to be Tiger. I don't even know which one. I didn't play with him a ton, but when I did, it always amazed me.
Okay, your guilty pleasure that maybe even Amanda doesn't even know about. Is there something you love? Like, I mean, come on. You're very vigilant about your health. I know you are, but what do you love?
I am. Every once in a while, the chocolate covered banana. I'll find a box of them. I'll find a box. Yeah, but it's got chocolate on it. I'll find one of those deep in the freezer and grab it and gnaw on one of those for a bit.
All right. The movie you'll watch 30 minutes in, or there's only 30 minutes left? What's the movie?
Oh, let's see. I got to think of the movies on my. Zero Dark 30 really gets me. I've seen it so many times, but yet I'll sit there. Yeah, if I've got 30 minutes left of a flight, I'll just go like right to the middle of it and just watch 30 minutes of it. Just the whole story and the dedication, and then, I love that movie. All
right, last thing. Would you rather win a gold medal in golf or a gold medal in alpine skiing?
Well, I've got zero chance in either, but I don't know. The alpine skiing thing's pretty darn cool. But again, I'm a long ways from that, but that would be a lot of fun.
I know how much you love it.
Just the training of it would be fun.
Of course, and just for everybody out there, I knew this guy could do live TV when you and I did tape TV in the California desert, and the sun was going down on that instructional shoot, and it's like, we don't get this right, we'll be back here tomorrow. You nailed it. Thank you, buddy, very much for doing this.
Good to be with you, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Leonard, quick break, come back, final thoughts right after this. Back in with a couple minutes to go here on this Tuesday on 5 Clubs. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. This jacket is not your garden variety cardigan. This winsome hybrid cardigan, awesome. Just like everything else at Peter Millar, all their retail stores, and of course, petermillar.com. Monday, the United States Golf Association announced the passing of Judy Bell at the age of 89. She was the first female president in the history of the organization. And if you consider her life in the game of golf, her mother, Miriam, was actually the president of the Kansas Women's Golf Association, so she had it in her family. But she certainly didn't have any obligation, but she felt one. But she was a very good player as well. She appeared in 38 USGA championships. She competed and got to the semifinals of the 1952 U.S. Girls Junior. Unfortunately, she ran into a precocious teenager named Mickey Wright. She played on winning Curtis Cup teams. She captained Curtis Cup teams. And when she joined the executive committee of the USGA, somebody asked her a question about being a woman, and she said, well, and then she ascended to being the president. She said, I've only been doing this for a couple hours, but I know what it's like to be a woman. I've been one for 59 years. She served the organization for 31 years, but she served the game essentially since she was a tender teenager, playing the game well, but representing the game the best ways possible. 89 years of age, what a wonderful life lived, and a legacy of impact in the game of golf. For all of us here at 5 Clubs, and of course Signature Sports Group, we hope you have a wonderful Tuesday tomorrow. Taylor Zarzer will join me in studio. We'll talk about a number of things, including that event on the DP World Tour. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.